Hello, my little sinners and saints. Wanted to show you my nails before we get started. You know how I am with my nails. So I look awful as always. That's why I have an avatar. We're gonna be talking about women in the army that's been sexually assaulted and killed. Whoa, so scary. Okay, the first person we're going to talk about is Lavina Lynn Johnson. Her dad said that he looked out the window one day, he got a knock on the door, and he saw a soldier standing out there. And anybody knows in the military that once you see a soldier standing on your porch, what that means. Lavina Johnson, excuse me, I've been sick, was born July 27, 1985. She died July 19th, 2005. She was an E3 private first class in the United States Army. She was found dead in her tent. The tent was a construction tent, which she would not have been sleeping in. Um, her death was controversially ruled as a suicide, but the evidence of rape and battery led her family to believe the United States Department of Defense covered it up. The daughter of John Johnson, a service veteran, and Linda Johnson. Johnson was born and grew up in Florissant, Missouri. The 5'1" African American honor student enlisted in the Army immediately after graduating from Hazelwood Central High School. She was deployed to Iraq and stationed in Baldad. Hold on, I'm going to ask Beings how you say this. Blood. She had been there for 8 weeks before her death on July 19, 2005, 8 days before her 20th birthday. Johnson death, Johnson's death was officially ruled a suicide by the Department of Defense, DOD. However, her father became suspicious when he saw her body in the funeral home and decided to investigate. Initially, the Army refused to release information, but did so under the Freedom of Information Act after Representative William Lancey Clay Jr. raised questions about the congressional hearings over Pat Tillman's death. The autopsy report and photos revealed Johnson had a broken nose, a black eye, loose teeth, and burns from a corrosive chemical on her genitals, a gunshot wound to the mouth that seemed inconsistent with the suicide. I'm going to stop there and say I've seen many pictures of suicides. Blood. She had been there for 8 weeks before her death in July 19, 2005, 8 days before her 20th birthday. Johnson's death was officially ruled a suicide by the Department of Defense. However, her father became suspicious when he saw her body at the funeral home and decided to investigate. Initially, the Army refused to release information, but did so under the Freedom of Information Act after Representative William Lancey Clay Jr. raised questions about the congressional hearings over Pat Tillman's death. Pat Tillman was another soldier. That's another case. The autopsy report and photographs revealed Johnson had a broken nose, a black eye, loose teeth, burns from a corrosive chemical on her genitals, and a gunshot wound through the mouth that seemed inconsistent with suicide. I want to say that if you shoot yourself in the head, um, these are things that can go with it. I mean, obviously, if she put the gun in her mouth, it's going to break her teeth. And a black eye, broken nose, depending on where the bullet went. She shot herself with, I think, a 223. Generally, that's what we issue for deployment, or the shells. It'd be an M16. And so the 223 is just going to bounce around. So this is not surprising to me. However, I have trust in that this man that spent 20 years in the military has probably seen things like this and knows that something else went on other than what was reported. Plus, the corrosive chemical on her genitals, maybe high DNA or something. Um, that sets it out right there. And her being in that tent, that's something else. Several reporters have suspected that the chemical burns were a result of attempts to destroy DNA evidence of a sexual assault. Additionally, bloody fingerprints discovered outside of her living quarters. A spokesman for the House of Armed Services Committee said that the committee was looking into Johnson's death, but they were not yet committing to a formal investigation in June of 2008. Christopher Gray, Chief of Public Affairs for the U.S. Criminal Investigation Command for the Army, he has said that the case remains closed as far as they are concerned. Following a 2007 in February, KMOV News reported on Johnson's death on an online petition addressed to the House of Armed Services Committee and the Senate Arms Service Committee was launched, closing with 37,319 supporters. This followed by a creation of official Lavina Johnson website dedicated to developments in prompting a new Army investigation of her death. The petition closed on May 24, 2008, with nearly 12,000 signatures. Preparations are being made for delivery to the committees. In 2008 of July, the online Black activist group Color of Change launched another online petition calling on Henry Waxman. He is the chair of the House of Oversight Committee to conduct a hearing of Lavina Johnson's death and the Army's handling of her cases and others like it. A documentary film about Lavina Johnson's family struggle for justice was made in 2010, directed by Joan Brooker, entitled Lavina Johnson, The Silent Truth. I would suggest that you go watch it. It's good. On July 19, 2011, the Criminal Justice Students in the Cold Case Investigation Research Institution, CCIRI, run as a student club by 3 universities, selected Johnson's case as one of their cases to investigate. The CCIRI crime scene reconstruction aimed to help shed light on the case that attracted worldwide attention. The CCIRI investigation did not agree with nor dispute the Army's findings. Cheryl McComb of the Cold Case Investigation Research Institute calls the case gut-wrenching. McComb says that the institution normally spends 1 year on a case, but spent 3 years on Lavina Johnson's case. In a phone interview with the St. Louis Public Radio, McComb said that she faults for the Army's poor communication, but she does not disagree with its conclusion. The problem is, number one, the way the notification happened, a lack of information given to the family fast enough, McComb said. There was nothing about this case that we could go back to the Army to say, relook at it. We didn't have anything new. We didn't have anything that was just wrongdoing. Around 2016, Attorney Donald V. Watkins publicly named Kevin P. Brines as leading suspect. Since the attorney, Watkins has been released himself from federal prison and is now working with the Johnson family on a new movie for Lavina. Okay, like I said, shooting yourself in the head is going to cause those issues. The only thing is the chemical burns. That's odd to me. And I don't understand why, if there was other people looking in, that would be odd to them if this was a suicide. So that's one thing that stands out, and it makes me wonder how true it is. Whenever they notified the family, let me see if I can find the exact words. It said whenever he notified the family of her death, said that she, Lavina L. Johnson, died of a self-inflicted wound. Her fate, which was suicide, face was all beat up. 10 months into the investigation, that they finally got the congressional act to get the information that the Army says that happened didn't match the congressional act information. So I don't know about that. I couldn't find more information on it. This is some pictures of her. This is her funeral. They were wanting to have an open casket, and they said that no, do not have an open casket. This is the tent where they found her body. I have the pictures of her body, but I'm not gonna post them. So next, we're going to be talking about the murder of Vanessa Guillen, 20-year-old. The murder of Vanessa Guillen, a 20-year-old United States soldier, took place inside of an armory at Fort Hood, Texas. All these are at Fort Hood, by the way. And Fort Hood is also the place where the guy went crazy because he had to get a deployment. He was mentally unstable anyway, and shot up the place. But she was bludgeoned to death by another soldier, Aaron David Robinson. Guillen had been missing for over 2 months when some of her dismembered remains were found buried along Leon River on June 30th. Upon hearing about the discovery, Robertson fled Fort Hood and fatally shot himself when law enforcement attempted to apprehend him in nearby Killeen, Texas. Cicely Aguilar, a local woman identified by authorities as Robin's girlfriend, was taken into custody and is alleged to have assisted him in dismembering and burying Julian's body. On July 2nd, 2020, Aguilar was charged with one federal count of conspiracy to tamper with evidence. On July 13th, 2021, she was indicted on 11 counts by a federal grand jury. On November 29th, 2022, Aguilar pleaded guilty to accessory to murder after the fact and 3 counts of making false statements. On August 14th, 2023, Aguilar was sentenced to a maximum of 30 years for her role in covering up the murder of Julian. This is Julian. Go sub up to the Guru of Baseball Cards. It's a great channel. Vanessa Gillian Twinney was from Houston, Texas. She was born in Ben Taub Hospital in Houston, Texas. I just messed that name up. On September 30th, 1999, to the parents of Rodrigo and Gloria Julian, who originated, let's try that one, from Zacatecas, I messed that up too, state in Mexico. She had 5 siblings. Julian attended Hartman Middle High School, and according to her family, graduated from Cesar E. Chavez High School in 2018 and topped 15% of her class. She played soccer, loved to jog, and enjoyed sports and learning. Julian joined the United States Army in 2018 and trained as a 91 Foxtrot, small arms and artillery repair. Woohoo! Julian was advanced from private first class to the rank of specialist on July 1st, 2020. Okay, Aaron David Robinson. He was 20 years old. He was from Calumet City, Illinois, a southern suburb of Chicago. Robinson joined the United States Army in the month of October 2017 and trained as a 12 Bravo combat engineer. He also held the rank as E4 specialist mobile at the time of his death. Cicely Ann Aguilar, 22, described by authorities as girlfriend of Robinson and the estranged wife of another soldier. Julian was stationed at Fort Hood, a United States installation in Bell County, Texas, which is approximately 340 square miles in size and home to 3 Corps and the 1st Cavalry Division. She was last seen about 1 o'clock on April 22nd, 2020 in the parking lot of her unit, the Regiment Engineer Squadron Headquarters of the 3rd Cavalry Regiment, 3CR. Her car keys, identification card, bank card, and barracks key were found inside the armory where she worked. Julian's family felt she disappeared under suspicious circumstances. The case was investigated under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Command, CID, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That's the FBI, if you don't know. And with local law enforcement agency in Bell County. Colleen and Belton and the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, the United States Marshal Service, and the Texas Ranger Division in support. Multiple Fort Hood units, including 3CR, began searching the area within 2 weeks of her disappearance. Before Julian went missing, she had told her family that she was being sexually harassed by an unnamed sergeant at Fort Hood. The complaints by other female soldiers made against the sergeant have been dismissed. I'm gonna hold on for a second, and I hate saying this, but in the military, it's a man's world. You don't go into this man's world and then start complaining about stuff no matter what it is. there's repercussions for all actions in the military, and I'm not saying right or wrong, definitely not right with hurting someone, but just sometimes it's best to try to avoid situations and keep your mouth shut. I'll put it that way. Julian's mother advised her to report the matter, but she responded that she could not put a stop to it herself out of fear that her mother would be harmed for making a report. In early June, Julian's mother told a reporter she did not trust the Army's handling of the investigation. Surprise. And her attorney, Natalie Quam, said she believed that the family was keeping her in the dark because a few details had been released regarding her disappearance. On June 13, 2020, hundreds of people assembled at the gates of Fort Hood to protest what organizers felt as a lack of information on the case. CID reported that they had found no evidence that Julian was assaulted, but they said that they believe there was foul play involved in her disappearance. A United States House Armed Service Subcommittee on Military Personnel hearing, chaired by Jackie Spear, about the killing of Julian in 2020 of July. And on June 17th, the League of United Latin American Citizens added a $25,000 reward to the existing $25,000 reward announced by the Army for finding Julian. On June 23, Congressional woman Sylvia Garcia, in whose district Julian's family resides, met with Fort Hood officials to discuss the ongoing search. The authorities said that there are 300 interviews and over 10,000 hours were spent investigating Julian's disappearance. On July 27, 2020, Julian's mother, who had previously been detained for illegal immigration, was granted parole. I'm sorry, that's insane. Was granted parole and placed by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security through the assistance of Garcia and the immigration attorney Luis Gomez Alfaro. The discovery of her remains. On June 30th, 2020, Army investigators were called in when contractors discovered partial remains along the Leon River in Belton. The area had previously been searched by the Texas Rangers, detectives, and even cadaver dogs on June 20th after a burn mound was discovered nearby. Investigators theorized that the remains previously burned under concrete had been dug up by the wildlife. Tim Miller, director of the Texas EquuSearch. Oh, and by the way, to be in the EquuSearch, all you got to do is sign up, and you got to pay for your own shirt. They'll give you a shirt, but you pay for it, and that's all you have to do to be in the EquuSearch. It's a wonderful organization, but it's not like you got to be special or anything to be in it. Stated that it was the most sophisticated burn site they had ever seen. Later that evening, at around 8:30, authorities re-interviewed Cicely Ann Aguilera, a local woman who was a estranged wife of a soldier at Fort Hood. Aguilera was reported to be the girlfriend of Aaron David Robinson, a specialist rank enlisted soldier who was one of the last people known to have seen Julian on that day of her disappearance, and who had previously been interviewed by investigators. Aguilera told police that Robinson had confessed to her that he had killed a female soldier at Fort Hood. At the request of law enforcement, Aguilera placed a controlled telephone call to Robinson, who said, "Baby, they found pieces," and text Robinson multiple news articles in response to which he never denied anything. According to the criminal complaint filed in Western District Court of Texas, Aguilera helped allegedly, no, she's not allegedly no more. She helped Robinson dismember and dispose of Julian's body on April 22nd, 2020, after Robinson told her that he bludgeoned Julian to death with a hammer inside the armory. On the evening of June 20th, Robinson escaped the custody of unarmed guard in his unit. He was in the military. If you're a threat to yourself or you're a threat to someone, but there's no concrete evidence, for lack of a better word, um, they have somebody that's higher ranked than you just hang out with you and make sure you don't take off or you don't do anything or something like that. And that's what was going on that day. And he escaped from that person. After hearing the news of the discovery of the remains, he had took off. He had been detained by his unit at the request of CID agent under the pretense of violating COVID-19 quarantine rules. And wow. In the early hours of July 1st, Killeen police located and attempted to make contact with Robinson, who produced the handgun and killed himself before he could be taken into custody. Nothing says guilt like that. Aguilar was arrested by Texas Rangers and held at the Bell County Jail on July 2nd. Bell County officials stated Aguilar would be transferred to federal custody due to being charged with one count of conspiracy to tamper with evidence by the United States Attorney's Office of Western District of Texas. Assistant U.S. Attorneys Mark Frazier and Greg Gloff are prosecuting the case on the behalf of the federal government. Okay, the motive. There's always a motive, whether we know it or not. On May 24, 2022, Texas Department of Public Safety released a report stating that Aguilar later explained why Robertson killed Julian, saying Julian saw Robertson's cell phone lock screen, which contained a picture of Aguilar. Robinson told her he was not worried about getting in trouble for violating the Army's fraternizing rules with Aguilar while still being married to another soldier, and he hit Julian in the head with a hammer. She was going to tell on him. April 22nd, 2020, according to law enforcement, Julian is murdered with a hammer inside the armory. I don't see how there wasn't blood everywhere. By Robinson, who then uses a trunk to remove her from Fort Hood. It's actually a tough box. To remove the body from Fort Hood and gets help from Aguilar in dismembering the remains before burning them along the Leon River. The 23rd of April, CID was notified by a commissioned officer in the CR3 or 3CR Provost Marshal that then PFC Julian was reported missing. The 24th of April, CID issues a missing soldier letter for Julian. Fort Hood Military Police issue a be on the lookout, a BOLO, advisory to surrounding law enforcement agencies. Military personnel, along with civilian and military police, begin to search. On the 26th of April, according to law enforcement, tracking cell phone data, Robinson and Aguilar returned to the Leon River site and further break down Julian's remains. On April 30th, Secretary of the Army, Ryan D. McCarthy, makes the following statement about COVID press briefing. I'd like to start out by saying this morning by talking about a missing soldier, Private First Class Vanessa Julian, in hopes of increasing the public's awareness and assistance in finding her. She's actually a specialist. She was promoted. June 19th, Aguilar is interviewed for the first time. The 21st of June, cell phone data from both Robinson and Aguilar lead to law enforcement officials to an area near the Leon River, law enforcement officials locate the burn lid of the Pelican transport case, but failed to find the body. June 30th, about 1 o'clock, contractors working on a fence near Leon River discovered partial human remains that would later be confirmed as Julian and notify the law enforcement. CID and partner agencies discovered human remains. At about 8:30, Aguilar was interviewed again and told law enforcement officials about the killing. Robinson fled Fort Hood. A mural. Let me go through some pictures. I'm sorry. This is a mural was created in the hometown of Houston by a local artist. The mural portrays her with flags of both the United States and Mexico, the latter due to the Mexican American ethnicity. Another mural is dedicated to her at Cercaro del Sol in the Park Place neighborhood. That's Robinson and Aguilera, by the way. And this is stuff I think I've already read, but I'll read again. The discovery in 2020 of the dismembered and burned remains of Vanessa Guillen, a Fort Hood soldier who disappeared on April 22nd, 2020, sparked outrage from Central Texas to Washington. Specialist Gillian's case captured the attention of celebrities, lawmakers, and other public figures, including former President Trump, who met with the family at the White House. The case also drew particular outrage from the women in the military and Latinos. Amen. I think I have another picture of her. Ooh. Now we're going to be looking at Anda Fernanda Vaz Ruiz. We'll call her Anna. In the first quarter of 2023, the Army documented 94 cases of suicides among active duty members across the U.S., a jump in the same period in 2022 when 75 soldiers died of suicide. Valdelia, we'll call it Anna, death thrust Fort Kosovo's previous name, Fort Hood, back into the spotlight following the 2020 grisly murder of specialist Vanessa Guillen at the same post. The investigation of Gillian's case found that she had been sexually harassed, but unit leadership had not taken any action. The failure of the facility leaders to fully investigate led to scathing report that condemned the culture of command at the military post, saying it allowed an environment for sexual harassment and assault. During 2022 fiscal year, the Department of Defense received 8,942 sexual assault complaints from members of the armed forces. 8 out of 10 cases occurred during military service, a slight increase from the previous year. The majority of the sexual assaults were only 1 in 10 men, 3 in 10 women who experienced sexual assaults reported them, according to the estimates by the Department of Defense. Anna said he was choking me. Let me see who was choking her as I jumped through there. In addition, the Army examination of Anna's diaries turned up December 10th, 2022, entry in which she wrote the soldier whom she had a relationship choked and slapped her. He was choking me and I couldn't move, and he thought it was super fun, she wrote, though she did not report the incident. I felt really bad and I didn't know what to do or how to leave, she wrote. A friend of Anna's had text message showing she had contacted a friend asking for her to call to leave the room the day of the choking because she felt uncomfortable around the soldier after the incident. The soldier, who is a sergeant, and that's a higher rank than what she was a specialist or private first class, told investigators that he slapped and choked her, Ruiz, during sexual intercourse. He further admitted he choked her another time, but then he said that it was in a playful manner, according to the report. He said that Anna did not let him know it bothered her, according to the statements to investigators. Anna's father told investigators that his daughter had mentioned these incidents at least one other time. There's an incident with this man coming to her room uninvited and trying to kiss her. Anna's father took issue with the Army's findings about his daughter's death. According to the report, along with the allegations of harassment and assault, Anna was dealing with an Article 15, a military charge for disciplinary infractions that she had tested positive for THC, the ingredient found in marijuana. Also, in January 2023, she was in the process of Chapter 14 separation from the U.S. Army, which is issued for disciplinary infractions or misconduct. Family and friends interviewed by investigators said that while she was wanting to leave the Army at some point in the days before the death, she was hoping that she would be able to stay. The investigators who took into Anna's death stated that the military base launched an investigation in June of 2022 in sexual harassment complaint by Anna about a team leader who had been her sponsor and assigned to her to act as her mentor and counselor. My daughter did not commit suicide. She was suicided. That's her mother's words, not mine. Before the sexual assault complaint was complete, Anna was transferred to another platoon. That's one of the things, you get transferred to another platoon. You get harassed. Nobody trusts you. Sorry to say, you don't complain. Army investigators did not identify the soldier who was the subject of the sexual harassment complaint. Fort Kosovos has not responded to the question on the case. At least 4 other military personnel told investigators that Anna had told them about the problems with the team leader. One said Anna told her he would flirt with her and make comments about her appearance and was unannounced to the her barracks to hang out. This is sad cases. Anna's body was found in March at the same time the Army post where Vanessa Gilliam was found murdered. And I'm gonna leave it at that. But it's sad to say there's certain things in the military you don't do, and certain things that you do. I said do. The 5-year-old came out at me. But women know this. I mean, take it how you want. It's a man's world. You don't go into a man's world and expect it not to be harassed. And how you handle that's your own business. Whether you choose to complain about it or you choose to be quiet about it, that's totally up to you. And that's not wrong either way. And but I just feel that there needs to be some new policies put in place to where the victim is not victimized again for making complaints or saying something about it, because that's what happens is the victim gets victimized again. Move, like I said, move to another platoon and all your people don't trust you, and it follows you through your career, and it's a sad situation. um but I'm going to go ahead and end this. I want to read one thing though. Private Anna, I don't know how to say that middle name, Ruiz, 20, died of apparent suicide in the maintenance bay. There, her family takes her family told Noticias Telemundo, a Spanish language news agency owned by NBC. Ruiz was born in Mexico and enlisted in the Army after immigrating to the U.S., the agency reported. The soldier's mother told Telemundo that Ruiz experienced sexual harassment from her peers and a superior in weeks preceding her death. It's not clear whether she made any sexual harassment reports during her 15-month station at the Texas Post. I do want to say that that Article 15 could have played a lot in something happening to her, um, because you want out, you're just done with stuff, but at the same time, you don't want to leave. It's like it said on that movie with Brad Pitt, it's the hardest job you'll ever love. And still this day, I would go back in the military. I loved it. It was the best thing other than my husband and my kids. Um, but I'm gonna go ahead and end this now, and I appreciate you sticking with me through all my readings and messing up of every word that I try to say. And I will see you later.